Oh, I already hit the live button.
Nope, no problem. We'll go for it.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Adams Brothers Podcast. We are joined here this afternoon with the city of Deerfield Beach, Florida, Mayor, Mr. Todd Drowsky. He's going to be here with us here, answering some questions about his first year in office, and then we'll go on over into public safety and what everybody's been waiting for. So we have the Mayr Todd Drowsky here with us this afternoon. So Mayr Todd Drowsky, welcome back to the Adams Brothers Podcast. It's been a year or so since you've been here the last time.
It has too long, and I appreciate you having me. I appreciate the Adams Brothers having me on your podcast. It's good to be back. Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to have you here, Mayor. You know, we talk, out in public. We talk here behind these microphones, and whatever we say behind these microphones is never personal. It's sometimes we disagree, but we disagree respectfully, and we can always debate each other respectfully, and that's how we are right here. And you know us very well. So you've been here before.
Absolutely, and it's always good to share information and to get these issues out into the topic in the public domain and discuss them. And I want your listeners to hear, from my perspective and my side, what's going on in the city.
Yes,
absolutely, and that's important. We always want to hear both sides here on our podcast. So Mayor, you got elected a little over a year ago. It's been roughly 13 months now. You've been in office for a year. So let's just start out with your first year in office. Some of your accomplishments and that you've made since you've been mayor, and where you like to go in the future, and then we'll go on into the elephant in the room, public safety. So let's talk about your first year in office there, Mayor.
Okay. Well, I certainly understand that public safety is on everybody's mind, and I want to save ample amount of time for that. And we'll definitely get into those issues. But you're correct. We're a year into my first year being mayor. And some of the changes you've seen in the city, some of them are very small if you come to commission meetings, just the way that the meetings are run and how we handle the public going forward. And some of the changes have been very significant that I'm actually very proud of. For example, one of the changes that I heard on the campaign trail was about our building department. The building department previously was not efficient. It was slow, not customer friendly, and it could not accept electronic submissions for plans. So you had to physically bring papers down to City Hall and have them, processed. Now, we changed building departments, thanks to my colleagues on the commission. So effective December 15th, there is a new vendor running the building department. Remember, it is outsourced in the city of Deerfield Beach. And the new vendor has been absolutely spectacular because now you can submit your plans electronically online. The review is much faster. And the complaints that we're getting are very far and few between. In fact, I wouldn't even call them complaints. Just the messages that I'm getting are about more procedural. How do I do something? Because I was used to doing it with the old company this way. Now I have to do it with the new company that way. And so it's not a complaint. It's just getting used to the new company. And I think now that we're more than 4 months into it, we really hit the ground running. And that's what the residents and the businesses in particular in Deerfield Beach asked for. They asked for, a change where it would be more friendly and more accessible to them. And the city commission listened to them, and we made that change. So when people say, my city commission isn't listening to me, this is one bold example that I would give them where we have listened and we delivered based upon your feedback that we have received.
Okay. Yes. And what is the annual cost for us doing that? Bringing them the building department. Well, we already had them since 2000. What is the cost? Do you know the cost that we're paying for building services?
I'm not off the top of my head. I'd be happy to get that answer and bring it back to you guys for sure. But I know I know the cost is far less than if we were to do it in-house on our own, because we would have not only labor costs and FICA and insurance that goes along with that, and overhead. That's now all on the building department. So that's all on them to cover those costs. So not only do we get a better service, but we get it more economical to our residents.
Okay. Good.
Yes.
Good. Okay. So you can go ahead on to your next bullet point. Yeah.
Sure. The other thing that I wanted to do as mayor was bring on a full-time economic development director in our city. Previously, we had an economic development director who also served as the CRA, the Community Redevelopment Agency director as well. So it was a 50-50 split. And in my opinion, the 50-50 split wasn't working. We needed someone with a full-time economic development background, someone who is going to pay attention to our businesses in the city. Because at the time during the campaign a year ago, remember, the fishing pier was closed. It was still under renovations. As a result, the businesses were hurting along the S curve and up and down Hillsborough Boulevard and Federal Highway. So this is an approach by someone to come in and tackle and basically serve the businesses, one-on-one in that capacity. And Michelle Caba has been our economic development director, and she's done just a stand-up fantastic job so far, talking and getting to know the businesses. The S curve is better than ever, to be honest with you. Hillsborough Boulevard is seeing new businesses come in, and it's just not about East Deerfield Beach either. I mean, don't think it's just about the beach area as well, because our city goes to the western border out to Florida's Turnpike. So it's all those businesses from the Boca line south to Sample Road, and from the beach to the Florida's Turnpike. So everything in between falls part of that economic development. And one of my platforms that I talked about during the campaign was Dixie Highway in particular. And there is, and we have something under works, and I would love to come back to you on a future podcast in the very near future, because we have something cooking for that Dixie Highway area, because that was something that is really near and dear to my heart. We're working on a couple details behind the scenes still, but that's going to probably be unveiled at our next commission meeting on April 14. And I'm really proud of it, and I think the residents are going to be excited about it too. So when I was talking about Dixie Highway and about stimulating that corridor, I wasn't saying it just to get votes. I meant it. I listened to the residents along that area, especially in District 2, and I mean business, and business is coming.
Okay.
Thank
and
you.
That was going to be one of my questions too.
Yes.
So we'll just keep them in suspense a little while longer. We'll wait till the next commission meeting to discuss about Dixie Highway, and then we'll invite you back on for Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. I need a reason for you guys to invite me back. So don't worry about it.
No, we don't. You don't need a reason. I'm quite sure it's a lot of issues going to be going on here in the next year or two where you can come back and talk about.
Oh yeah.
And then the other third thing is I did mention how we bifurcated economic development from the Community Redevelopment Agency. So now we have a full-time Community Redevelopment Agency director. His name is Michael Chen. He's had vast experience here in Broward County, not only in construction, but with community redevelopment agencies. And he's been a great addition as well. And in fact, the premier project under the CRA right now, and everybody can see it being built along Hillsborough Boulevard there on the Cove on the north side, is our nature center. It's going to be the Deerfield Beach Nature Center, in connection with the Fort Lauderdale Science and Museum and Discovery, the Fort Lauderdale Museum of Discovery and Science, known as MODS. And if you've ever been to downtown Fort Lauderdale, that's the big museum they have, for children, that has the big movie screens in there and the exhibits. They're bringing that version on a smaller basis to Deerfield Beach in our city as well. So it's going to be basically from the sawgrass to the seagrass, and it's being built right now, and it's going to be a landmark for not only children, but for families and tourists to come to Deerfield Beach when that's open. And you can see the progress as you drive up and down Hillsborough Boulevard every day.
Right.
I got one question too, Mayor, that you mentioned the new CRA director, Michael Chen. The CRA is scheduled to be sunsetted, I believe, 2029. What will the city of Deerfield Beach do with the remaining funds that will be in the CRA account?
Well, the funds that are in the CRA account have to be spent in the CRA borders. And roughly the CRA goes from Federal Highway to the beach. And in that area, along the barrier island. So that's generally the borders of the CRA. And so the funds have to be spent in that district. So we're coming up with capital projects now to identify that would be on a short-term basis, because you can't do a project more than 3 years because the CRA will have sunsetted. I suppose you could, but then the city and the general fund will be on the hook for that project going forward. So we're trying to isolate, pardon me, those dollars to the CRA and capital projects as we go forward. We have a list that we're contemplating, but we haven't settled on anything other than the Museum of Science and Discovery Nature Center there on Hillsborough Boulevard.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
And then, of course, let's just jump into it. Is the elephant in the room, as we're all calling it, is public safety. And I think everybody knows, where we are, but I'd love to give a quick recap, is to give some context as to why we're here and how we got here. So during the campaign in March of last year, the public safety really wasn't an issue in the campaign. It wasn't something that was on the radar at the time, because historically, this is what happened. Because we have a contract with the Broward Sheriff's Office to provide law enforcement and fire rescue services to the city. Those contracts contain a 5% cap in them, meaning the costs cannot exceed 5% on a year-to-year basis. So the city is on a fiscal year, not a calendar year. So our fiscal year begins October 1 of every year. So in the preceding April, like right about now, actually, we would receive a letter from the sheriff's office for what our law enforcement and fire rescue services number would be for the upcoming year. So we can plan and budget during the summer months. If the number was below 5%, we would typically sign off on the letter, send it back to the sheriff, and we were done. If the number exceeded the 5% cap, we would write a letter back to the sheriff saying, excuse me, the costs exceed the 5% cap in our contract. Please revise. And every year the sheriff would. They would revise it to the 5% or below. We would sign off on the letter and we would be done. And that historically was the relationship between Deerfield Beach and the Broward Sheriff's Office for many, many years. So let's go back to last year, 2025. Same thing happened. We received a letter in April for the fiscal year that would begin October 1 last year. But this time, the number was about a 12% increase. I'm rounding up. It was about a 12% increase for fire rescue and for law enforcement, which obviously exceeded the 5% cap. We wrote to sheriff, please revise per the contract to 5%. And this is where things went south. So instead of getting a letter back from the sheriff, what we received was, we did receive a letter, but it was a letter terminating our contract with the city, with the city's contract with BSO effective October 1. That was the response. That's what started all this. The city of Deerfield Beach did not pick this fight. We did not want this fight. The men and women who provide the services to our city and continue to do so, by the way, every day, do a fantastic job. So our dispute is not with them. It's basically with command and their decision to terminate our contract because they wanted the 12% versus the 5% increase. Now, let me just put that into some perspective. So that 7% delta between the 12% and the 5% may not sound like a lot to you, but that's roughly $7.5 to $8 million extra that we would have to pay. And that would be in year one. So the sheriff wanted a 12% increase in year one and a 12% increase in year two. Now, remember that compounds between years 1 and 2. But to make the math simple, just say it's $7.5 million in year one and $7.5 million in year two. That's $15 million of new money that the city would have to come up with just to meet the demand of the sheriff. So that would be zero increases to parks, to city staff, for if city staff wanted increases in their pay, we couldn't do that. To roadways, to water, all of the other basic services that the city provides, we would have no money for because all of the new money would have gone to the sheriff. So people say, are my taxes going to go up by the city of Deerfield Beach taking over police and fire? I say absolutely not, and we're going to get into it because we can do it more economical than the sheriff can. But I guarantee you that if the sheriff had continued the contract with those types of increases, absolutely your taxes would have gone up for that $15 million would have had to been paid. So it is a fiscal responsibility that we have to our residents to make sure that not only do you receive the best services, but you receive those services economically as well. I guarantee you that if we had to do a tax increase to pay that extra $15 million, those commission chambers would have been full of angry residents of why we sold them out when we could have done it cheaper for ourselves. Because our study says that over a 20-year period, that on the low end, the city is going to save $250 million. And on the high end, it would be $950 million. Now, obviously, the first 5 years are much easier to put money on as to how much savings there's going to be. Obviously, the further out you go and the further you get to 20 years, the more speculative becomes. And that's why the range gets bigger and bigger and bigger until 20 years. You get to the spread between 250 and $950 million. But the average is like 450 million the city is going to save over that 20-year period. And let me just stress it. I can't stress it enough. 450 million. That's $500 million, up to $1 billion the city is going to save by doing our own police and fire departments going forward. So but to me, it was not a decision of money, even though that was a factor, but certainly not the factor. What the factor was is the local control that the city would have over its police and fire services. Because I have heard through every single district in our city that people want that local control. They want to know who the police officer is on their streets. They want to know who the firefighter is coming to those homes. They want community policing to come back to Deerfield Beach. And other cities have that too. Of the top 12 cities by population in Broward County, there's 31 cities in Broward County. Of the top 12, Deerfield Beach was the only one that had police and fire with BSO. So we've kind of outgrown that model. When we switched to BSO, 20, 30 years ago, yeah, maybe it made sense back then, but now we're a much bigger city and the costs are much bigger. And so people want that local control going forward. For example, we don't have any control. We have zero control as a city over staffing. We have zero control over overtime. We have zero control over insurance costs. We have minimal control even over who our own chief is. Now, we all love Captain Hofstein. He does a great job.
Yeah.
But we get a slate of 3 picks from the sheriff. The sheriff gives us 3 picks to choose from, and we have to choose one of those to be our our chief. Now, luckily, we got lucky, with Captain Hofstein, and we have a great pick in him. But, the next time we may not get so lucky with the 3 picks that we have. So that local control is really what the residents, and what I heard the residents wanted in this switch. The residents, there's a lot of fear mongering out there that there's going to be a lack of service, or there's actually going to be deaths created by this switch, for lack of response time. I guarantee you the men and women who serve us do it professionally every day. They come out every morning not knowing if they're going to come home that night. And they're going to do their best job every single day to the residents. So there's not going to be any change of service levels. If anything, the service levels when we switch to our own will be better because we're going to put our stamp on it. We're going to put Deerfield Beach's stamp on it. It's going to be our values and our morals and our community. What we experience here in Deerfield Beach, that's the reflection of the fire and police departments that we want. And that's what we're going to build here in Deerfield Beach. And that's why not only am I excited about it, but you should be excited about it, and the residents should be excited about it. Don't fear it at all, because you're not going to notice the change of service levels. If you do, it's because they're getting better when we go to our own.
Well, we don't want to see our new police and fire departments fail. I don't think nobody here in this city wants to see it fail. We all want to see it succeed, but it keeps coming back to the cost. Like, well, how much is it going to cost? How much is it going to cost? What is it going to cost us? Will we be able to afford to live here? And I just heard you say, excuse me, that the city can do it cheaper. So how can we do it cheaper?
Well, listen, I don't like the word cheaper, because that's not what I'm not implying that, we're going to give them cheap service, because that's certainly that's not what we're going to do, but we can definitely do it more economical. Let me give you one very simple example. So most people don't know, in our contract with BSO that every city has, we pay a $12,000 per year overhead charge to BSO per employee. What that overhead charge encompasses, I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. But we pay a $12,000 charge to BSO contractually per fire and police officer. Obviously, when those individuals are in-house with our own police and fire departments, we don't need to pay that fee. So that's 1.2 million right off the books without blinking an eye that we save right there. In addition to that, insurance is something that we can as well, because the insurance is a pass-through cost, as are all the costs with BSO, mind you. They incur the cost and they pass it on through to the city. So there is no incentive for the sheriff's office to save money, because it's just simply a pass-through to the city. So if it goes up 5% or 50%, it doesn't matter to them, because they're just passing it through to the city anyway. It's our bill to pay at the end of the day. When those costs are our costs and we're paying them, we'll have the ability to negotiate, those down as well, and be on the lookout for savings for the departments and for the residents. So those are some small examples that we have. Now, listen, I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys. Is there a startup cost to this? Absolutely, there is. There is. So that's estimated to be about $31 million. What does that include? So on the fire side, for example, we already own the fire stations and the fire trucks. So we're well ahead of any other city. If another city wanted to start, they'd have to buy their own land, they'd have to build their own fire stations, and they'd have to buy their own fire trucks. We don't have to do that. Those are already ours. Those are already city assets. What we do have to pay for is the equipment on those trucks. On the law enforcement side, you have vehicles, you have body armor, you have guns and ammunition. So those hard costs we would have on the law enforcement side. So that's about $31 million. That's our maximum exposure. But we have already started to apply for grants to cover some of those costs. For example, we've already spoken to the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. about getting grants. We are eligible up to about 10 grants that they are offering. They're competitive grants, and that doesn't mean we're going to get all of them, but certainly we're going to apply for all of them and see how much we can save there. So whatever we can get in grant money, whatever we can get in appropriations through the state or through Congress, that will only reduce that $31 million. So the $31 million is the cap. And certainly that number will be lower as time goes on and we do get these appropriations in these grants. I've met with both of our Congress men and women for Deerfield Beach and explained to them what we're doing and tried to tell them to get some appropriations through Washington, and we'll be doing the same thing on the state side through Tallahassee as well. So we are full force ahead. This is a full-time job. And we are working, very hard to make sure that we have the best fire and police departments in all of South Florida and even Florida, because this is something, like I said, that we are creating from the ground up. We are creating it in our mold, putting our stamp on it, and we're going to be holding roughly 20-some charrettes throughout the city in the coming months. I believe there's a dozen set up for April. that are already on the city's website where we want to hear from the public. And they are scheduled for mornings, they're scheduled for afternoons, they're scheduled for nights. So if you work, you have the ability to at least, come to one or two of these workshops that we're going to be having. And we want to hear from the residents. What do you want your police and fire departments to look like? What stamp of approval do you want? It may be something as very minimal as to, what the patch on the uniform looks like, to the color of the uniform, to certain specific policies and procedures that you want to see implemented. And that's what we're going to be doing, is holding these town hall workshops throughout the city to make sure that we hear from the residents as many times as possible. This is going to be an extremely open and transparent process as we go along. And I really want everyone involved, because this is our opportunity to do it. You told us loud and clear it was a 4-1 vote to change to our own police and fire departments. And now that we have been given that mandate by the residents to do this, we want to make sure that we deliver to them.
Okay, Mayor, I want to intercede, and I want to go back to 2021. If I remember right, you proposed, I believe, starting the public safety department. If I'm correct, it was 2021.
Yes.
And I remember then going to, just my spider senses was tingling. And when that was proposed, I'm not saying it was no conspiracy, but my spider senses tingled. And I called Commissioner Preston at that time, and I asked, and I told him, I said, I don't know, something telling me that this is the beginning of going back to the old Deerfield Beach Police Department, which I mean, it's no secret for anybody watching. I mean, I was totally against it, and I'm still is, but the ship has sailed now, so you got to get on board now. But you have a lot of people think and believe that was set in motion in 2021. What do you have to say to those people that maybe think that it was some type of conspiracy? I'm saying I don't believe that, but it did raise my senses in 2021, where I thought the city was going back to. I just wanted you to address that.
No, sure. I mean, there's no conspiracy whatsoever. I would have to be the greatest magician of all time to connect all those dots, because going back, you would have to make the assumption that when creating the Department of Public Safety, that one, I knew who the director of that department was going to be. You'd have to make the assumption that I would then know that the sheriff would terminate our contract instead of negotiate with us. And then I would further have to make the assumption that there would be no other, how my colleagues would vote to go forward, in creating their own police and fire departments. So those are just too many assumptions to go together to ever fit like that over a period of time. You'd have to say back in 2021 that I knew the sheriff was going to terminate our contract, and nobody knew that at the time. So the creation of the Department of Public Safety was basically something to put under one roof all of the various public safety aspects that we have in the city. For example, we also have, besides law enforcement and fire rescue, you also have ocean rescue as well, the lifeguards. You also have the park rangers, and you also have parking enforcement as well. So those were all kind of separate departments working on their own, but they're now under one umbrella, including code enforcement is in there as well. So all of those departments were separate. They're now under the same, roof. They all talk to each other. They have the same director. And it's a much more efficient system than it was before. Because what happens if, God forbid, that we do have a major hurricane that hits Deerfield Beach, or a train derailment, in our city? That is certainly a possibility as too. We need to make sure that all of those various departments know how to respond in the event of that type of emergency, and not on a piecemeal basis. So that was the reason for putting that department together, to make sure that in the event of a true emergency and on a day-to-day basis, we were on the same page. To think that I somehow knew then that the sheriff was going to terminate our contract now, there's no way anybody knew that, and especially me.
Okay, and also to that point, I want to add, because it was told to me, and it was also said that the Commissioner Preston, I remember at that time, and the commission at that time said that the Director of Public Safety would be taking a deep dive into the contracts. Okay, so I'm thinking, okay, if he's taking a deep dive into the contracts, was it always his opinion that at that time, even as not even at that time, but as from 2021 until 2024, that the city of Deerfield Beach could go at it alone and do it better than the sheriff department?
And to piggyback, let me jump in and say, and one of the
Sure.
questions said, and why didn't Rodney Brimlow do that when he was public safety director?
Well, he did dive into the BSO contract, if that's what you're asking. Yes. So he did take a look into our contracts with BSO, and there were some savings that we had there. But remember, when you pay the money to the sheriff, there's no ability to audit the sheriff. That's the problem. And in addition to not only the cities, but the county, they're unable to audit the sheriff as well. You give the monies to BSO, but you can't audit, how they're spent. And I'm sure everyone has seen by now, if not, you'll hear soon that the county is looking to bring back, fire rescue and part of law enforcement to the county so that they can have that fiscal oversight control that they now don't have. So there's just no way that we would have been able to take, to peel behind the curtain of the sheriff. We were able to audit the expenses that we have, but you can't audit his expenses on his end.
Okay. And we have a question from the comment section. It says the same Deerfield leadership that rushed to vote to leave BSO with no real budget, no financial plan, and missing numbers are now in a bind and up in DC seeking money to fix it. They are asking for help from a congresswoman who's been federally indicted and for allegedly diverting over $5 million in COVID funds and tied to fraud, money laundering, and campaign finance violations, all while in office. You care to address that?
I mean, every supposition to that question is 100% false. So I need your listeners to do some research, when they ask them questions, to make sure that they're factually accurate. That is inaccurate in every way, shape, or form. They are accurate about the congresswoman being indicted
Allegedly.
at the moment and under investigation, allegedly.
Right.
Correct. So that part is correct, but we rushed, no decision. Remember, this started last April and we voted on it in January. So there was roughly, 10 months that we were in every single commission meeting. This was discussed at every single commission meeting between April 2025 to January 2026 when we voted on it. We did a lot of behind the scenes, research on it. We had a public report that was done on it, which everybody which the naysayers love to criticize, saying it's only 12 pages, which is absolutely nonsense. The report is 173 pages. The executive summary is 12 pages. There's 160 extra pages that are available for review as well. So nothing was rushed. Everything was very well thought out. We're not in a bind at all. We're actually on budget, if not below budget at the moment. And the only reason that we're talking to our congressman in the Department of Justice and Tallahassee is to get those extra dollars to save the residents money on this. I told you that the startup costs were in the $31 million range. So every dollar that we get from elsewhere only reduces the expenditure to the residents. So I don't know why somebody doesn't want us to save money on their behalf. That doesn't make any sense to me. But this is absolutely on target as we go forward.
Also, Mayor, moving forward with the grants, because at the last commission meeting, Commissioner Shinesky had asked an update on it, and he was told by Commissioner Hudak that he should have been in Washington. I disagree with Commissioner Hudak, and I think moving forward, it's me, Wayne Adams, that the citizens of Broward County, of Deerfield Beach, should be updated on the progress of the grants. Not every detail. We don't have to know every detail, but when he was told that he should have been there, I thought It's just me. I thought that was wrong. I thought that the citizens of Deerfield Beach should be updated whenever I believe someone goes to Washington or Tallahassee, that we should be updated on the progress of the grants and what stage we stand at. So I just wanted to make that, just ask you as moving forward. So whoever don't have to ask that, whoever don't go, would you just promise that the residents of Deerfield Beach be updated on the progress of these grants that we are seeking for our law enforcement and fire?
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I mean, this is a transparent process. We're not here to withhold anything from the residents. So, in fact, now for every commission meeting since January of 2026 that we've had, we have a designated item, an update for public safety. It is on every agenda, no matter what. It doesn't change on every single agenda since January and continuing until this process is done. On every single city commission agenda meeting, we have an opportunity for an update for what is happening since the last meeting with respect to public service, public safety. So and there was an update with respect to the grants that was at the last commission meeting. Like I mentioned, there's anywhere from 6 to a dozen grants that the city is eligible for. Those don't open till the end of April, so nobody can actually apply for them yet. They haven't opened yet to the public to apply until the end of this month. But as soon as we apply, we'll tell you which ones we applied for how much, and when we get them, we'll let you know how much we received, so we can tell you how much we're saving the residents. Absolutely.
Yes, because when Commissioner Chinesky did ask, and he said that raised a lot of eyebrows to people about the process of transparency. So I just want you to understand perception that I'm sitting at home watching, and that nothing never came out of it. And I hear everyone saying transparency. I just want to see full transparency about the grants. But let me let my brother.
No, you can answer that, and then
I hear you. I did not make that comment.
Right.
So that was not
Right,
my comment to make. So, but I'm telling you from my perspective, yes, we will continue to give updates at every single commission meeting, and you don't have to wait to a commission meeting to get an update. By the way, all five of us on the dais, we're very accessible. Not only we're out there in the public, our emails on our cell phones or on the city website. You don't have to wait for an update. If you have a question or a comment or want an update, and you don't want to wait for a city commission meeting, reach out to us anytime. That is what we are here to do.
All right. We have another question from the audience. We don't want to ask you all of our questions. We want to definitely try and get some of their questions in as well. It says, do you have any documentation to show that going back to our own municipal police and fire departments is what the majority of Deerfield Beach residents truly want?
I'm not sure.
Maybe that poll that was taken by the city, I guess, is what they're asking. Can the people see the poll? They're asking for documentation on.
I guess it was a poll taken earlier. I mean, sometime last year or some months ago that showed that the majority of the taxpayers wanted to go to BSO. I guess they're asking, do you have any documentation to show that that's what the majority of the Deerfield residents truly want? I guess that's what that question is.
I'm the mayor of the city. I mean, I know what my residents want. I deal with everyone on a daily basis. I mean, I'm out there in the community. The vast majority of the comments were in favor of bringing in police and fire services to the city. So you may have had some people come to commission meetings. The more vocal folks come to commission meetings and speak against it. But out there in the community at large, the residents were overwhelmingly in favor of that. And that's what my other colleagues saw on the dais as well. They reported the same findings in their individual districts. So this isn't something that was limited to a certain particular area. This is something that I saw citywide.
And the sheriff took a poll too that showed otherwise. I mean, and he did put it up, if I'm exact, and no documentation behind it, like, showing, but it was also that poll taken too. So you have two conflicting views there, so I just wanted to just put that in for the for the record too, that the sheriff took one that showed otherwise. The city took one that showed in their favor. The sheriff took one that showed in the sheriff department staying with Deerfield Beach. So I just wanted to note that in the record too.
Right.
Understood, and I'm not a big, poll guy, my polls are the residents of Deerfield Beach. They are my poll, not what a piece of paper says, because you can get the piece of paper to say whatever you want, depending on how you ask the question. You can get whatever answer you want on how you ask the question. So I don't put a lot of stock into polls, but I do put a lot of stock into our residents and their feelings, and that's what I was responding to.
Right. Also, and Mel, the city of Pompano Beach just did a study, and it showed that I believe it was a lot of variables in their study.
106 million, I believe.
100 and something million, and I know they were saying about the buildings. Well, I'm just trying to figure out, Mel, if it's just 100, maybe 100. I'm gonna even just say 90. I'm gonna go back and step way back and just say 80 for Pompano, not because they retain their fire department. If it's even at 80, and how is Deerfield Beach planning to do 2 departments, police and fire, at a total of what you said
31 million,
32 million?
And for police,
how I'm just that's the part there. And look, I wasn't no genius in math. Okay, math was not my best subject. My best subjects in school was social studies, American history, and science. So I just want you to explain that, because a lot of people are saying that don't add up, and I, for one, am wondering how are we gonna do that.
I'm saying that that's just for police in Pompano,
and that's not fear mongering.
Yeah.
Right. No, understood. But you have to look at what their study said. So, and the basis of your question is that roughly the startup costs in Deerfield Beach are going to be 30 million. The startup costs in Pompano Beach are going to be 100 million. We're using round numbers for this conversation. And so how is Deerfield Beach, that much better than Pompano? And I'll tell you why. You've got to look at both studies the way that they were crafted, because the Pompano study includes buildings into their proposal. So when I told you before that Deerfield Beach owns its own fire stations and police stations, Pompano, is going to have to build its own. So the cost of those, obviously, to build a police or fire station is astronomical. And in addition to that, there's an assumption in their report that their staffing is somehow going to double over the period of the contract. And I'm not sure how they came to that conclusion. So there's 2 questions. If I were a Pompano commissioner, I would be asking for more information on those. But if you were to remove the infrastructure costs from the Pompano contract and make it an apples to apples comparison with Deerfield Beach, and also factor in, remember, Pompano is a much larger city than Deerfield Beach as well. So if you were to factor in the size increase of Pompano Beach and remove the capital projects from Pompano study, I think our numbers would be pretty similar.
And also, we have building structures that I read comments say dilapidated. I mean, I don't know if that's, but they're old. The infrastructure at those departments have been around ever since. The same fire station #1. I mean, that place, it have not too much been done since I was a kid. I remember me and my mom and Dara and my sisters walking by, going up there to get toys 50 years ago.
Hey,
much have not changed. Not much have changed over at the police department.
Don't date yourself now on the toys, all right?
I remember going there getting toys 50 years ago. I'm 59 years old, but I remember going, probably longer than that, because couldn't have been no more than I was probably 6, 7. Daryl was maybe a year under me, but our buildings, Mayor, are not in too much better shape than Pompano. And I remember Pompano had their own police department, so they did have a building. So I hear what you're saying about that. That number was included in that study. But just maybe a year ago, we were asking and talking about getting a bond to do a new city hall, a new police department. which I agree. We at
We
some
need it.
point we
At some
need.
point.
I mean, we need that, but is that cost mail being factored in because you're asking the citizens here, the residents here, for for the cost of everything? I know you said the 31. And but what about how are we gonna fix those buildings? Are we still gonna go with that bond? Because we were talking about a whole lot of things way before this contract blew up like this. Everything blew up. How are we still have to fix those buildings? They they need fixing still to this day right now.
Correct. So whether we stayed with BSO or not, those buildings need to be fixed. It doesn't matter whether we do it, provide law enforcement and fire rescue on our own, or if we do it through BSO. Those buildings need to be fixed. That's a definite, and I think we can all agree on that. So that's why that number is not in our study, because that number is going to be there regardless. So we're going to have to fix those buildings regardless. So that's a constant. You're asking, and what the residents want to know and what the study was showing is how much would it cost to take fire rescue and law enforcement on their own. So that's what the $31 million is for. Pompano put that money into their proposal. So they could have easily excluded that number for capital improvements, because they're in the same situation. They're going to need to pay for that, whether they're with BSO or not. And it's my proposition that if you were to take the capital improvements out of Pompano's contract and adjust for the size difference between our cities, that our numbers really aren't that far off from one another.
Right. Okay.
Now you also asked, how are we going to pay for those buildings going forward? That's a fair question, And so I'm working on that as well. So a bond is something that the residents would have to approve potentially, in a referendum, and then we would have to pay for that going forward. There are certainly some other opportunities that have come up since we last talked, in the form of potential P3 projects, P3 being public-private partnership projects that come in, and that would not cost the residents as much, if any, money going forward. And I think that's something certainly we need to evaluate. I'm not saying that is the option going forward, but I think it's something that we need to evaluate and make sure that we have all the facts before we go out to the public and present them, because I want them to know what the options are and how much it's going to cost. And that's a new option that we have available to us.
Right. Okay. And on the news this morning, the news was reporting that Broward County is looking into handling its own public safety itself, because the sheriff's office is taking up about 54% of the county's budget, and they're going to be exploring options to see if it's cost effective to replace BSO at the airport and the port. Does the fact that the Broward County Commission is going to do a study to study the separation of fire rescue from the sheriff department affect Deerfield's decision to start their fire rescue department, start a new fire rescue department?
Well, they're just, my understanding is at the next county commission meeting, they're just authorizing the the county manager to look into what that would look like to take back, the port and the airport and fire from BSO. So the devil's always in the details. I don't think we know what I don't think we know what that looks like yet. So I'm going to hold judgment until I see what the county exactly is proposing. But I will tell you this, is that I think Deerfield Beach's leadership has certainly started the domino effect in Broward County, because it's made other jurisdictions realize that they can do it on their own, and they can do it for the local control that their residents want and demand, and they can even do it more cost effective. So you see it in Pompano, you see it in Broward County, and I highly suspect you're going to see it in other cities as well coming up. And that's because Deerfield Beach took the bold leadership to say, we can do this, and we can do it what our residents want. I am still very much a big believer that this is what our residents want, and that we're going to craft this to their department. Listen, I'm not going to be around forever, but this police and fire department is going to be, and it's something that I want the residents to be extremely proud of and police and fire departments that they feel comfortable interacting with, going forward for not only them, but their children and their children's children as we go forward.
And speaking of the Deerfield Beach Police Department, and I want to make this very crystal clear about the old Deerfield Beach Police Department and how the residents here, a lot of it here in District 2 were treated by the old Deerfield Beach Police Department. And I know you weren't here, and a lot of people weren't here, but weren't treated very well. And those brown uniforms that we've been talking about here on our podcast and out in public, that the majority of the people in this that we've talked to, they don't want to even see those brown uniforms back here because and not all of the police officers were bad. It's always a handful of police officers in every department that taints the good men and women that do their job the right way. It's in every department. You have a few that slip through the crack, and Deerfield had that share back in the past, and we don't want those brown uniforms to come back here and just open up old wounds like Junebug, Willie James Junebug McDonald. We just did a podcast on him talking to his family members and his father of how he was murdered by a former Deerfield Beach police officer, and those brown uniforms are associated with that. So we want to just make it crystal clear that if we could just please stay away from those brown uniforms if at all possible. That will make that would be a smoother transition into going back into the Deerfield Beach Police Department.
No, you're 100% right. I actually attended where I heard it for the first time was at Commissioner Preston's District 2 meeting not that long ago, and someone mentioned the brown uniforms.
That was me. Yeah, that was me.
All right, I was trying to be polite about it, but go ahead.
No, you can tell them it was me. I'll put my face on that. Yes.
Okay, so it was you that brought that up at the meeting.
Yes.
And had you not brought it at the meeting, maybe we wouldn't have known about that. But this is exactly what I'm pointing out is why the residents need to be involved and why we're soliciting so much opinion. Is because we can get those data points and we can make sure not to make those mistakes that were made before. So I can guarantee you that brown uniforms, I don't know that they were ever under consideration, but they most certainly are not now. There will not be brown uniforms as we go forward. And listen, I have zero tolerance for anyone that wants to abuse their authority in this city. And because we have that local control, we can deal with discipline better. First of all, we're not going to hire individuals like that. We're going to recruit the best individuals for our city. We're going to do thorough background checks. We're going to do thorough training here in the city of Deerfield Beach. So we only want the utmost professional men and women in our departments. But should somebody step outside the bounds, there is zero tolerance for that in all of our districts. Especially District 2 as we go forward, and that will not be tolerated, and they will not be working for the city of Deerfield Beach.
Accountability is what we want here. If that ever happens, and we hope it doesn't, we want transparency and accountability, not a rush to judgment. We know there has to be an investigation and whatnot. We hope it never ever comes to that, but we just want to put that on the record to make it crystal clear about those brown uniforms. And I think my brother wants to piggyback off of that as well.
Yeah, not even that. I wanted to go back, Mayr Drosky. Again, I'm going back to the $31 million startup cost. Sheriff Tony raised concerns on our podcast when we had him on here a few weeks ago that the figures that the city of Deerfield Beach gave are inconsistent with prior analysis and for similar cities. What contingency funds are in place to cover potential overruns in technology and equipment procurement?
Well, I mean, our numbers we have our budget for police and fire, we have gone on the high side. So we have built in contingency to all of those numbers. So if there is inflation, if like now with the war in Iran and gas prices and oil prices increasing, we've included, contingency and buffers into those numbers to account for that. So we have gone on the high side because we certainly don't want to come in on the low side of those numbers. So we are more than prepared to handle any contingencies that come up out there. So our numbers, we feel, are extremely accurate, that we've given the right of contingency amount in there. And I feel comfortable that we'll be able to meet those. And because there is that contingency in there and there is that extra buffer, the numbers will probably come in lower, and that'll be additional savings to the residents.
Okay, and also too, Mayor, follow up with that too about what the sheriff said. The study projects a 16% reduction in personnel costs per position compared to the BSO contract. How does the city plan to maintain competitive salaries and benefits to attract high quality officers?
I don't know where the sheriff is getting that. That number is not accurate. I mean, of course we have to be competitive. We're not going to lowball the men and women that want to be in our city, when they have options to go elsewhere. So we will absolutely be competitive with our sister cities that are out there in the county. And one of the first things that we're going to do is, is go to a 72-hour model now. Right now it's 2 days on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 2 days off. Now it'll be 1 day on, 3 days off. And that's based upon the state. The state has basically made a recommendation that is a better model for, especially on the fire side, because it gives more downtime, more ability to recruit. There's a lot of mental fatigue that goes into that position. So it's just for mental health purposes. And so that is the trend. Miami-Dade County and Palm Beach County will be going to the 72-hour model soon. And so we feel that by going to the 72-hour model as well, that will be competitive with that as well, because the 48-hour model is not, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore.
And speaking of the state level, what Governor DeSantis has been saying that he wants to give the property tax, give relief to the taxpayers here in Florida from property taxes. Mm-hmm. And I am pretty sure that the money that the county and the county gets from the state and the city gets from the state or the county,
and the county,
that is going to somewhat impact the budget here in Deerfield Beach. Now, how is that going to impact us moving forward with the Deerfield Beach Police Department and the Deerfield Beach Fire Department? How is that going to impact us? And they've been, whatever the governor says he's going to do, he's pretty much been saying he's pretty much done it, so yeah. I have no reason to believe that he's not going to give us relief from property taxes. So how is that going to affect us moving forward?
Well, first of all, it's not up to the governor. So he has a role in that decision, but not the role. Right. For example, both houses of the Florida legislature, the House of Representatives and the Senate, would have to agree upon a proposal. It would have to be approved by the governor, and then it would have to be sent to the voters this November and approved by the voters. So that's a lot of steps. The legislative session this year went from January through March, and it's now concluded. And there was no agreement on property tax, what to do with those property tax relief, as they're calling it. The House of Representatives put forward a proposal, but the Florida Senate, they did not take the idea. They offered no proposal. So the session closed with no agreement because the Senate didn't even have their proposal. I believe the governor is calling a special session down the road to readdress the issue. But if the Senate and the House don't agree, the issue is dead in the water there. So there's a lot of steps to get there. We're certainly keeping a very, very, very close eye on this, because this will affect not just our public safety budget, but everything else. I mean, the events that you see in the city, and everything else could be affected by that. But that's every city and every county that would be subject to that going forward. So we're keeping a very, very close eye on it, but there's a lot of steps they have to jump through to get there.
And jumping over to liability, no one has mentioned liability. We will have, as taxpayers, for the first time, if someone sues our city over something that happened with the police and fire, new personnel departments and procedures create a higher risk of mistakes. The taxpayers of Deerfield Beach will be on the hook rather than Broward County. It could easily equal the new public safety startup fee. How would it affect? How is it going to affect liability? Do we have liability insurance? If someone sues us, I'm pretty sure we got to have some type of insurance. And I think there's a law that you can only sue a government agency at about $200,000+.
Yeah, I think they raised it up
Could
from
you
175 to like 200 now.
Could you elaborate a little further on that, Mayor?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd love to know where your listeners getting those numbers, because those don't seem accurate at all. But it's certainly a consideration, which we certainly thought of. I mean, we didn't go into this without thinking about all of the possibilities and contingencies. It's not like we just decided, okay, let's do this and we'll make it up as we go and we'll figure out the numbers as we go. I mean, it doesn't work that way. That would be poor planning. And we didn't do it that way. We certainly came up with a budget for police and fire, and liability certainly is one of those. And that is built into the budget, liability for any lawsuits that the city may face. But to think that we're going to have more lawsuits, I think is an incorrect statement, because remember, we're building this department with our training and our guidelines as we go forward, not somebody else's. This is us controlling our own destiny. And so if we train these individuals correctly and they adhere to our procedures, I think the lawsuits will be less, actually, not more, because we are in direct control of the operations and the training that they get on a day-to-day basis. And if they live up to the quality of standards that we're going to have here in the city of Deerfield Beach, then we're going to have one of the best police and fire departments around. And if they don't live up to the quality that we're expected of them in the city of Deerfield Beach, they won't be working for the city of Deerfield Beach.
Well, we want representation from every community, the Black, the white, the Latino. We want the police and fire departments to look
to reflect this
reflect the community here in Deerfield Beach.
Police and fire have to resemble the community in which they serve, 100%. So correct. Right. So those populations need to be reflected, and the men and women that you see on the daily basis should reflect the community in which you live.
Yes, and Mayor, I saw a question in there. Say, are we going to have an outside company to do internal investigations for any incidents, or would it just be internal investigators from the city police department of any wrongdoing of any officers? I think that's a very good question there.
That's a good question. It's a tad premature. We haven't got to that particular point yet, so I can't speak. We haven't hired, a police and a fire chief yet. So what we've done is we have put out advertisements for police and fire chiefs. Those positions, the recruiting is coming to a close. Interviews will be held in April, and by May, we want to have a decision on who the police and fire chief is. And then those individuals will come in and help create those policies and procedures as we go forward, keeping that we're going to continue to have the community workshops and the public input. The public input will never go away. That will continue throughout this entire process. So you're going to have it now when we have no chiefs. You're going to have it when we do have chiefs. So when they come on board, they're going to be more responsible for how they're going to build their departments, because we're building this from the ground up. And again, which is exactly what we want. We want to build it exactly the way we want to, and to look like exactly how our city is, based upon, our values and morals here in the city of Deerfield Beach, which is not the same as our neighbors, which is fine. But we want this to be, our premier department here in the city, and to look like our city, not like some other city. I mean, because look at it now. For example, if an officer or a firefighter calls out sick for the day, then that person has to be replaced. Now, that person probably is coming from a different city, perhaps Tamarack, perhaps Hallandale Beach, perhaps Weston, perhaps, somewhere else. So they're coming to our city for the day to fill that shift. And I'm not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination that they're still not putting their heart and soul into it, which they most certainly are. But they just don't know our city, day in and day out. That's not their regular beat. So when they go back to their home city, we're paying for that. And we're also paying for it at time and a half. Now with our own police and fire, if someone calls out sick, we bring in our own people from our own jurisdiction that already know our city into that. So I think it makes it a better situation for all of us.
And also, Mayor, I wanted to ask you too. I got a few more questions.
I got one more right here I wanted to read here.
Okay.
If you got two or three, let me read this question here. The town of Jupiter, who recently decided to start their own police department, just announced that they will be having a town meeting to add a ad valorem assessment to fund fire services and related capital needs. Is this how you plan on funding the fire and police departments, meaning raising taxes that the city manager said he wouldn't need to do?
No, absolutely not. That is not. I'd have to do some research into that statement because I'm not aware of an ad valorem increase for Jupiter. I've talked to the city of Jupiter because throughout this entire process, a lot of people were pointing to the city of to the city of Jupiter as to why the city of Deerfield Beach would not be successful. And so I did my own research and I actually spoke to the city manager for the city of Jupiter and their fire chief and their police chief. As well to find out what their experience was in creating their departments. And so they are under, and this is all on their website. You can go to their city's website. They are under budget and ahead of schedule in Jupiter. So that's why I'm very surprised to hear that they would have to have an ad valorem increase because they were under budget. But that was one example. Remember when I told you earlier, because they did not have their own police and fire stations. They had to obtain the land and build the buildings. That's why they got a slower start. That's why they're on a 3-year period instead of us on a 2-year period, because they had to build all those buildings first to do that. So, and get their own fire trucks. So they had certainly a much heavier lift than the city of Deerfield Beach did. So the city of Jupiter they've actually been a great partner with us. You know, they've lent us a lot of advice. They've given us a lot of suggestions. And we've had a lot of partners, step out through all of this. The city of Coral Springs, the city of Sunrise in particular, both have offered their training facilities to the city of Deerfield Beach. All the cities around us have offered their technical experience to us as well. I mean, we can't get enough help. I must say, from everyone around us that is really rooting for Deerfield Beach because they want to see us successful.
It's saying it's posted on Facebook, the most recent post from, I guess, the town of Jupiter.
Yeah.
From what they're saying in the comment section, it's posted on their Facebook page.
Okay, that'll be my homework assignment. I wasn't aware of that, but I'll be sure to look at it. Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Wayne.
But that's certainly not our intent here in the city of Deerfield Beach. No.
Okay. And Mayr Drosky, did the city of Deerfield Beach really try to make the relationship with the Broward County Sheriff Department work? And during contract negotiations in the talks, were the talks really in good faith? Because according when we had the sheriff on our broadcast here weeks ago, he said that wasn't true.
I would disagree with that statement vehemently, to be honest with you. I mean, we had a long-standing relationship with the Broward Sheriff's Office, so of course we wanted to make it work if we could. It was the sheriff, he's the one that made us look at these alternate examples. We weren't looking to go on our own. We weren't looking to do studies. We weren't looking to do any of this. But he gave us that opportunity. When he canceled our contract, remember, he canceled our contract. That's what started all this. That's why I wanted to bring it up at the very beginning to tell you the history to this. So when our contract was canceled, we of course had an obligation to our residents to look at every single alternative because not knowing which way it was going to go. And it turns out, as we all know, how it ended up. But of course we negotiated with the sheriff along the way on the even up into the very end. The sheriff said that the 12% increase on the fire side was non-negotiable. He did not budge a penny on that side. We did not budge a penny on it. And what he negotiated on the fire side was to basically reduce positions. Well, if you want to save 10% or 30%, I can save you 50% on your budget if I cut 50% of your staff. I can do that. And that's exactly what was proposed. So we weren't getting the apples to apples services that we have under our existing contract. Basically, to get to the number, the reduction was to remove staff and positions from the city of Deerfield Beach. And I wasn't willing to compromise safety to do that.
Yeah, and he said on our interview with him, he said that the city manager Brimlow kept canceling meetings. Are you aware of any of that, or could you address any of that, whether it's true or not?
I'm not aware of that. I mean, typically the negotiations are done through legal counsel. So I know the city's attorney and BSO's attorney. I know they had many meetings on the subject.
Okay, and I also want to address the red light cameras. that's something that's kind of, I'm really conflicted about those cameras, Mel. And I'll say this, I have no problem with the cameras working during the original school hours, taking in the morning and when they get out. But I'm trying to really figure out, like, a lot of people that's really neutral and forget the police department thing, but why are the cameras still running when school takes in the morning up until school takes out? I understand why when school takes out, but if why are they running? And I heard maybe it was you or someone else said, I'm trying paraphrasing, that it's not a money thing. It's about the safety for the kids. If it's not a money thing, I'm asking you, as the mayor of this city, of this great city, why is that camera running still once school takes in?
Okay, so we're shifting topics a little bit, but that's great.
Yes,
So
I wanted to go there because that's
and
still
it
part of
actually,
public.
it actually, we're going to conclude on that. I mean, on that particular point, I'll stay here as long as you guys want, but it actually does tie into public safety at the very end. So, to me, this was always about public safety, the school zone cameras, and protecting the children in our school zones. That's what it was for. It was never about money. I don't even know that money came up during the discussion on the approval for the cameras, because it was all about public safety. It was, in my mind, it was never about the money. And we don't even get that much money from it anyways, because it gets split up so many different ways, because the program is actually authorized by the state of Florida. The state of Florida authorized the program, and it's a state statute that gives the parameters of the program. So the parameters is that the school zone cameras are operational 30 minutes before school starts through 30 minutes after the school day ends, and all the time in between. So that's when, so they're not running, in the middle of the night. They're not running on weekends. They're not running during the summer. They're not running, when school's not in session. Only when school is in session on school days, 30 minutes before to 30 minutes after. That's what the state parameters put on the program. And how the money gets divided, the state gets a piece of any citations, the school board gets a piece, the vendor that operates the cameras, the city's the last on that totem pole. So we don't get a lot of money out of it. So it was never, ever about money. And the program says that to get a citation, you have to be going 11 miles an hour or more over the speed limit. So if you're going 1 to 10 miles over the speed limit, you don't get a citation. But if you're going 11 miles or more, you can, if you're in the time frames there. So it's very easy. Anyone that doesn't want to get a citation, it's very easy. Don't speed.
And I think more my question I'm asking is that in the state statute about after school takes in, the camera can continues to run? Because again, I'm about safety, and I'm about the safety for the kids. But to me, and I think to a whole lot of people, once school takes in, when that camera is still running throughout the day, is that part there still in the state statute? Did the state statute allow the cities to do that? Or it was at their discretion and the city just decided, the city of Deerfield just said, well, we're going to allow it to run up until school gets out again and an hour after school gets out?
No, the state statute says 30 minutes before school starts, all the way through the day to 30 minutes after school. Now, the city could alter those times, but the data shows that you lose the effectiveness of the cameras by only doing it during certain windows, because people have to know when you're in a school zone, you need to slow down. So if you limit it to like an hour in the morning and an hour, right when school is letting out, you're not capturing all those speeders in between. And children are walking around any time of day. I mean, they don't have to necessarily be coming in class. They could be taking their bike because they're late. They could be taking their bike because they're leaving for an appointment or something. I mean, anytime during the school day when children are possibly out, those are the ones that we're seeking to protect.
And my
So
final question. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
no. So yeah, so I mean, to me, it was always about public safety, and so that half hour before school to the half hour after school. Now, the state program also says that any citation that is given has to be reviewed by a law enforcement officer as well. We, the city, just can't, or the vendor just can't send it out. It has to be reviewed by law enforcement first. BSO was our entity reviewing our red camera tickets. They have since refused, since we decided to go on our own, they have refused to monitor the red zone, the speed zone cameras. So there are no citations being issued now
Mhm.
because nobody's monitoring those tickets because BSO has refused to do so. We've written them letters to continue the service, but they've gone unanswered.
And that was, that was going to be my question. I was going to ask you, were the cameras being monitored currently by BSO right now? And you just answered that. So
They have refused to do
it's
so.
just no right now. So
That is no.
okay, so no citations are going to be issued right now for how long?
The school year is about to
End.
end. So they probably won't be operational again until the fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all the questions I have for you, Mayor. I know
And-
it's been over an hour here, but
I got this one final question for you.
Yes, sir.
Can you, as mayor of Deerfield Beach, guarantee the residents that we will not be faced with a tax increase because of us building this department, both departments? Can you guarantee that?
I mean, can I guarantee it? No, I can't guarantee anything, I mean, because there's too many variables that are involved going forward. I don't even know what the property tax, relief looks like, what that proposal is going to look like and how it will affect our budget, if it will affect our budget. But I will give you this guarantee. During my 9 years in office, I have not voted once for a millage increase in our city. And the millage rate in my 9 years in office has never once gone up. It has only either stayed the same or gone down in my entire 9 years. And I am not voting for it to go up again. So that has always been my vow to the citizens, to be fiscally responsible with their dollars, because we are stewards of the public coffers, and we want to make sure that we do the best with your dollars and the most with them. Because remember, at the end of the day, I'm a resident just like you and everybody else too. I don't want to see any waste of dollars out there. And so I think we've been extremely conservative with the city's funds. I think we do more with less than any city in Broward County. Keep in mind the average value of our homes in Deerfield Beach is $100,000 less than the county's average. So we are automatically at a disadvantage to every other city almost every other city in Broward County, because they're getting more than us per property than we are. But we have stretched those dollars throughout my entire 9 years, and we are going to continue to do that. The proposed budget that I'm working on with the city manager now is actually looking at a millage decrease for this upcoming year, not an increase. Because again, we need to make sure that during these times, because I know the price of gas and everything else is going up, so it's not gonna be on our backs that we increase it. And remember this as well. Your property tax bill has 3 components to it. So it's not all the city. Just because you're in the city, a third of your tax bill goes to the city, a third of your tax bill goes to the school board, and the other third goes to Broward County. So I have no control over the county and the school board's budgets. So they could cause your taxes to go up. Or if your property, increases in value, and I hope it does, that will cause your taxes to go up, because you're paying, even though you're paying a lower percentage, you're paying on a higher amount. That could be as well, but that's probably a good thing when you go to eventually sell your home one day.
No, I'm not selling. I'm staying here till I die.
But as far as the city's portion is, yes, I can guarantee that I'm going to fight to lower that amount, not increase it. Yes.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
I was talking about the city part, not the county or the school board. That's what I was looking for when I was asking the guarantee. But beyond that, you answering that. Anything else? You got the final last words? If you want to say anything else to our viewers out there, you have the floor.
No, I absolutely appreciate your time and your viewers for listening in and having a good dialogue. And I appreciate that with you guys. You're always very fair, and I always have a good discussion with you. And I just want to relay to the residents, one final time that there's nothing to be concerned about in this process as we go forward. Safety is not going to be compromised. We are all working in this together. And I think you said it earlier. The ship has sailed. We have charted our own course going forward. We are very far down that road. And everybody should be rooting for our success, not our failure.
Yeah.
Rooting for failure is not really a resident that I want to listen to. I want someone that's rooting for our success and can help out and offer good suggestions and come to the meetings and say, hey, here's my idea, this is what I would like to see. So we can all do this together. I mean, I am really excited about, I told you what we've accomplished in just 1 year so far. I have a lot more ideas, as we go forward. I mean, because I think we can accomplish a lot here in the city of Deerfield Beach. And I know I'm excited what the future holds about Deerfield. The residents should be excited as well. And I think we can all do this together if we help each other.
All right. That's right. Okay. We have been talking to Deerfield Beach Mayor Todd Drowsky. He has came on here today to help ease some of those fears here that the taxpayers have. And we want to thank the mayor for coming on here and talking to us here. We really appreciate you, sir, for coming on and taking the time out. We know we kept you here for over an hour. We wanted to try and limit you to about an hour, but sometimes when we start talking, it just it happens that way. But
no, that's fine. I'd rather answer your questions than not. So I appreciate the opportunity.
And you're welcome back anytime. Like you say, we hope to have you back here in a few months on the grants and the other stuff you were.
Careful what you wish for. Dixie Highway. I've got good news for you.
Dixie Highway was what I was.
Right.
We want you to come back and definitely explain that.
I'm coming back. You can't hold me back.
Okay.
Got it.
We're gonna hold you to it. Thank you, Mayor Todd Drosky, the mayor.
Always a
of
pleasure.
The beautiful city of Deerfield Beach. We want to thank all of our audience out there for watching, and we'll be back here maybe with the little pop-up podcast right after this. So thank you, Mayor Todd Drosky, for coming on our podcast and talking to the people here in Deerfield Beach. So thank you, sir. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yes. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
You as well. Thank you.